If you need to hop on the bike for a few minutes or just
Yeah.
do something slightly more active, then because I assume people are inside their houses with this stuff.
Yeah.
So um,
Yeah.
if you need to do a little more than that, that's okay. I won't be bothered if that's the case.
Okay.
We have 8 to 10, so 4 sets total. Um, of 8 to 10 per side single leg deadlifts with a row. We've done these before. So we'll just review those again. If you don't have additional weights, as in you don't have the option to increase your weights, we'll talk about how to make that potentially harder if it's appropriate, and you can decide. Followed by 5, I said wide, wide stance, wind stance.
I'm familiar with that one.
I was wondering, oh, is there something I haven't heard of that
I
before.
would love to see an interpretation of what wind stance means. But anyway, wide stance, inchworms. Again, just kind of moving through some ranges of motion we are already using. And the wide stance just biases your sort of lower body as well as the wider stance biases your butt or the lateral side of your body versus like your hamstrings. That's kind of the other side. And then followed by a 10-minute AMRAP. So as many rounds and reps as possible. Quality is assumed here of 16 goblet squats or air squats, should you choose. I prefer depth over weight. 10 shoulder taps. So we're in our plank shape, tapping our shoulders, right? And then 10 per side, sideline clamshells. Okay. So Maxine, you're welcome to do more like a jumping jack situation, if that's an option, just to,
To roll like a
yeah,
little bit
just to get things
here
like
right now. Let's get
you're
moving.
frigid, rightfully so. I'm just slightly less frigid in a drafty house. But let's do this. Let's start with actually I'll have Arisa have you do mountain climbers. And I'll have you could do mountain climbers or jumping jacks. But ultimately the mountain climber, if you're doing this, does not have to be intense. It could literally be you're in your plank shape and you're 1, 2, 3, 3. You're stepping, not jumping. Okay. You don't need to like jump. You prefer jumping jacks? Let's do 30. I don't care which one you choose, but let's get out of resting and slash less cold. If you're Max.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Jumping jacks.
Yeah. Just hopping around for 30, just about 30 seconds or so. I like it. For anyone watching and they're fine and they're warm, you can skip this part because all of us are cold. So we're trying to be less cold. That's the goal.
Warmer.
Exactly. Once you have your 30 or so reps, let's do our inchworms next. This is something where you go ahead, roll your mats out, any floor coverings you need to set out. I'll demonstrate in the meantime. So you're going to be standing at the edge of your mat. Whoop, there you go. There we are. I know you can't see me exactly. I'm going to touch my toes. Walk out into a plank shape. I'm going to lay down. And then get back up, walking your hands back towards your feet. When you come back to almost standing, you can stand up or keep your hips below your head or above your head, excuse me. I want to see 5. Let's do 5 inchworms, touching your toes, walking out, laying down, warming back up. Taking a more active approach to a warm this morning, just given the temperature shift for many of us. On these, standing up is an option, but is by no means a requirement. So once your hands are touching your feet or they're pretty close, you can walk right back out if you prefer. Doing a total of 5. It's okay if these take a while. If you get dizzy, you can just stop, pause, take a break. Excellent.
I think that may be 5.
5-ish. That's
5.
okay. Close enough. What I like to do next is, this is 5 per side, so a sneaky 10, basically. We're gonna squat, so we're gonna stay on one leg. Sounds like a funny thing to say. But when you squat down, you're gonna squat down just like you normally do. Don't worry about your depth just yet. So how low you go? When we're gonna squat later, I want you to hip crease at or below parallel. If that's not an option for you right now or ever, go as low as you can safely. But for now, you're gonna squat down. Pick a leg. I'm gonna go my right because I want to. I'm gonna either reverse lunge or forward lunge. I like reverse. Right. Okay, this is my second rep. Right. And then we're gonna do 5 per side. So basically 10 squats, but in between each squat, you're gonna do either lunge. If lunging's not an option, just remove that. Right, especially if you get some cranky knees. So a more active approach this morning. But because we're doing that, it is okay to take a more gentle approach to your range of motion. So it's okay if you're not quite having the same sensations as you do when you're fully warmed up. Okay. All right. Final little piece. Let's do our shoulder warm up. So kneeling, standing, as long as you have room to move your arms around so that you're not hitting the ground. That's really the only thing we want to avoid. So arms in our T shape, starting small, 10 rotations in one direction. I'm keeping my elbows straight. It's okay if you have you have a lucky fin, the one that's maybe not working as well as the other. That's about 10, I think, right? Opposite direction of where you started. Keeping that head up, so we're not letting that head track forward as you do this. Let's go forward and back, give your arms a break. Just kind of swing the arms. You can give yourself a hug if you know how the chest feels this morning. Let's go our thumbs pointed down next. So same thing as we did the first movement, we're gonna have the thumbs down. And so we had it up first, we're gonna go down next. Start small. This is one of 6 times I'm gonna do this today. So I'm gonna be very warmed up. That's okay. Usually most of my clients already know what to do. I'm like, do it. Great.
You do it now. It's the
thing we do, that one, do that. Let's go the opposite.
video of yourself.
Yeah, just send a video like this one.
There you go, this one.
No, I can do a few, but at some point I'm like, okay, I can mime it without them. At some point I'm like, I really need to stop doing this. I need to just do something with my shoulders now. Just like actually do something with my body. And then the next piece is gonna be that rotation piece. I'm kneeling here, so it's a little awkward, but just kind of rotating, right? One direction, gently getting some spinal rotation. It's okay for being gentle with this. I'm being a little less fluid because I'm kneeling, so much stiffer. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I cracked my back twice, thought you should know. So it doesn't hurt, but noticing any rotational differences. All right. So let's do this. Let's talk about our first piece, really. We have a single leg deadlift and a row. So depending on both your balance as well as your weight options. So assuming you have a heavier weight, and that's like you kind of have weights on the heavier end of the spectrum. So lifting the back leg may be distracting. That's definitely the case for me. If we're talking about doing a single leg deadlift with the foot up, you want more of a balanced bias, you have lighter weights, or you have very good balance, congratulations. You can do it both ways. So I'm going to show you both. Either way, whether the foot is down or up, you're going to keep the weight in the hand of the non-standing leg. So for example, if I'm going to deadlift my right leg, so this one, I'm going to put my weight in this one. Okay, so whether my foot's down or up doesn't matter, but my standing leg is facing you. My working hand is the opposite, right? So the deadlift itself, I'm going to stand on my right leg. My hip is going to move back. This is the foot down version. My hip will move back. At the end of my deadlift, I'm still deadlifting here. I'm going to row, right? Pull my elbow back, keep my chest open, come back and stand. That's one rep. Hip back, standing on my right leg, pull my left arm and stand. That's 8 to 10 per side. For those who choose to do a slightly more balance-based, maybe you should want a little more of a challenge in that aspect of things, you do the same thing, except this time, I'm going to let my leg lift off the ground. So I'm going to lift so hip back, my foot lifts up, pray for me. Then you're going to row, and then come back. Similar idea. There's no wrong answer. I want you to choose what works best for you. If the row is too much, remove it, right? Whatever you need to do. But let's do 8 to 10 reps per leg. Resting between legs is okay. Let's kind of roll into this. If you need to go unweighted, maybe you go unweighted first. We'll go over the wide stance interims in just a moment. Yes. If you have a weight that is on the light side, maybe you can't add anymore, and you're like, hey, I'm nailing it. You can do 2 rows per arm. So deadlift, row once, row twice. Your time on attention increases a little bit, makes it a little more challenging. If your weight is too heavy to row, maybe we don't, and we just carry it in hand. Once you complete one side, you're going to switch hands and switch legs. Maxine, is that okay on your shoulder? Everything seems to be going well.
That's fine. Where
Great.
I have problems is like still push-ups are hard.
Okay.
You know, overheads a lot better. But this kind of stuff when it's all close to my body is fine.
Great. So it's as you kind of leave
Yeah.
the body. Okay.
Now I forgot what I was doing. Here we go.
I did distract you in
No,
fairness.
it's fine. It's okay.
Nice work. So like I said, that double row is an option, but by no means is a requirement. It's more like, hey, I'd love to do this one a little harder. I want to progress this, but I'm in my house and I don't have the option to just pick up a heavier dumbbell, right? So that would be the next step. If you can, pick up your dumbbell. Excellent. our wide stance, I'm going to call them wind stances for now. Our wide stance, good mornings, essentially, or sorry, inchworms are, right, so I'm down here. So instead of doing my inchworm, kind of, with my feet in athletic stance, I might just be a little bit wider, right? Nothing crazy. But so when my hands come down, they're between my feet instead of being in front of my feet. So visually from the side, we're looking at a wider stance. I'm at the edge of my yoga mat for context. I'm going to touch my toes or the ground in front of me, gently walk out, complete some kind of push-up. So that could be assisted, okay? Or it could be, full plank, whatever it is, and walking back. Again, you can stay down here and walk back out, or you can stand up. Well, let's do 5 of those. You can't touch your toes. That's okay. Maybe you just reach for a yoga block or a stack of books. Right. I'll say this much. The push-up here is optional. So you can walk out to your plank shape and then walk back without laying down. We're just kind of gently loading the shoulders. Once you completed your wide stance inchworms with or without a push-up, that's your choice. We're then going to do that 3 more times. A single leg deadlifts with a row, 8 to 10 per side, and then 5 wide stance inchworms. Nice job. Nice work. As you deadlift, you can keep your eyes relatively forward, right? You're just looking somewhere in front of you, even if it's a wall. And your chest stays up, which you're both doing a great job of. So just continue doing those 2 things. The chest up cue, I just imagine if I had a name tag, I could see most of my name, right? Or someone could see most of my name. Or the capital letter of your name.
Feeling it.
Great. I was gonna say probably less critical for you, Maxine, but I was thinking for the overhead position. Either 2 options are going to be either having a kettlebell, which I know, do you have kettlebells? Yes.
Yeah, I have one. I have a 20-pounder.
20 pounds, which is probably kind of heavy for this, but for overhead pressing, a few options. So if you can't extend the arm overhead, that's okay. You can do an upright kettlebell press, which 20 pounds is pretty hefty on that, just the nature of it. So like, Meg's like baby bell, like that might be nice. Or a little more expensive, but way more fun. It's being like a landmine attachment. So forgive the name, right? But like it's basically you attach it into where you'd rack a bar, slide a bar into it, so you can then press in shape. So you're pressing into a barbell. So you're
I think you mentioned this before.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like I said, this is something that honestly, if you're ever in the city, let me know.
Yeah.
We can just do that together.
Okay.
You don't have to buy a
Yeah.
barbell attachment and a landmine attachment because
Yeah.
that can be pricey.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily need to do that. An upright kettlebell will do the same thing
Yeah.
or similar thing. But yeah, landmine attachment's great for getting a little more load. You can
Hmm.
it's a great way to progress that range of motion without like in a way that you can adjust the angle of your body. So your
Yeah.
shoulder angle can be accommodated. Right.
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I have these little baby weights that I can now do,
Yeah,
but it still feels like I'm still guarding a little bit here.
of course you are. I mean, whether it's shoulder, knee, hip, if you hurt something, your body remembers it. And it's like, are you
Yeah.
sure you wanna? I feel like we're not ready yet. And you're like,
No,
no,
yeah.
you should. And that's, I think, the difference between physical therapy and personal training, or
Yeah.
clinical and post-clinical.
Yeah.
Clinical settings, they might recreate the pain because they need to know how it happened. So like, oh, we poked it, it hurts. Okay, cool. So now I know poking it hurts. Nailed it. Let's not do that and let's treat it. Whereas my side of the story, I'm post-clinical. Someone's like, great, you don't need physical therapy. Congratulations, but you need to keep moving.
Yeah.
So some discomfort's okay, right? Hey, it's kind of sore. It feels a little weak. It's a little, uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
hey, ow, that feels the same way it felt when I heard it. I'm not trying to make that happen. So
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make that happen again. But the levels of discomfort are totally normal on both ends. One might be as sharp as the pain you had in the first place. For me, it's more like, can we make it sore, but in a way that it's getting better?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that, like, hey, it's just feeling like it's guarding. It just doesn't want to go there.
Hmm.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Well, it's improved a lot, since we
No, it's
started
huge.
doing
It's great.
this. And then, I think all the arm circles really did help. And
Yeah.
then all the swimming over the last year, I think also really helped to loosen it up and strengthen it too. So it's not, I got to the point where I remember telling Meg this, like, oh, I'm sore, not in pain. I like finally crossed that threshold. So
Yeah.
that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it still has room to go, like it can definitely still get better.
of course.
It's
Yeah.
like I can't do backstroke. Like there's still a lot of things that I can't do, but um day to day it doesn't bother me and I can do most things. So
Totally. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Physical therapy is also functional.
yeah,
They're getting you to function in your life.
exactly.
Triathletes, and this is nothing personal, triathlons aren't functional.
What?
In that, when you hurt your knee, they want you to walk up and down stairs.
Yeah.
If if you hurt your shoulder, can you reach your cabinet slightly above you? Like, they
Yeah.
don't expect you to be doing a backstroke or running 25 miles or uh
Finding 112.
right. Right. So like, I mean, there are people who will listen to you and help you get there.
Yeah.
But baseline physical therapy
Yeah.
will let you become functional again,
Yeah.
which is not the same thing as athletic
Yeah.
again. So yeah, I get
I've
it.
done pretty good, but yeah, there's definitely more to do.
Even if you're not injured or recovering, I guarantee you everyone has a thing.
Mhm.
I have a tight left hip, tight right hip, and tight left ankle. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
Um, some rotational differences right to left. So when I bench press, I almost fall off the bench if I don't focus. Like, just I don't actually fall off the bench. But my point is, everyone has a thing.
Yeah.
Um, it just might not be a thing that breaks them. It's just a thing that annoys them.
Yeah.
I've never met anyone who's like, I am perfectly symmetrical. So I'm amazing.
Are you a robot?
Possibly. Yeah. I know 4 rounds is quite a lot here, just it takes time. It's not explicitly hard. It may not be hard or just takes a bit of time. So resting between your movements, so between the deadlifts and the wide stance inchworms, or resting after those is fine. Especially if you're progressing in weight choice, you might need a little more rest before walking on your hands.
I've lost track of where we are.
You've done at least minimum 2. I think you're in 3.
I've done 3.
Yeah, I think so. This will be,
Why not?
yeah. Why not indeed? I will say if you're actively training, look at where you are in your volume. And if 4 rounds is too many, do 3 or reduce the total number of reps. I will say if you are getting dizzy with the inchworm, some people might just have dizziness with change of direction, especially up and down repeatedly. You can substitute this for a good morning, which is a standing position. So I'm gonna change my camera here. You can put your hands behind your head just to open up your chest and send your hips back. So it's a little more limited in range of motion, but it looks a lot like how we start the inchworm without the down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So if you're getting a little dizzy, you guys do that instead. I would do maybe 5 to 10 reps, but you can kind of decide. We're all down to one. Well, okay, you two are down to one layer. I'm just freezing, but that means it's a good sign. Race, I feel like you've either completed 4 or this is 4. I feel like this is 4.
I think it's 3 because I forgot we needed to do 3 and I took a very long rest
Okay.
earlier.
Well, that's
So
okay.
this is 3. Yes.
Great. Okay. Either way, let's stop at the end of this round. It's okay if you've only done 3. Not a problem. Want to make sure we're feeling okay, or we have our substitutions as needed for part B, which is the 10 minutes of squatting and shoulder taps and sideline clamshells. And with that one, same thing. Rest is going to be something that you can take within a set or between movements. I will say, so that I was a 20-pound kettlebell. I think this is 18. It's pretty okay. If it feels appropriate, you can try just doing a hold on the shoulder. So let's assume my right shoulder is the one that is cranky. I can just kind of bring the bell. So I have most of the weight in my left hand. I'm going to support this into my right, and I can just do a hold, right?
Oh.
So I don't have to press anything. I could just, right? If it's too much, just grab it back again. But I'm using this hand to help put it in place. So I'm not expecting myself to just grab it and hope it works, right? So if you can kind of like pick it up and then kind of set the shoulder and then kind of just do an isometric hold. Yeah.
Okay.
If that feels wildly inappropriate, maybe we don't. Maybe you should do something a little bit lighter.
What about just like just doing this with the dumbbell?
You can, yeah. The dumbbell is similar. The reason the upright kettlebell is more challenging is where mass is carried. So this is even, right? This is loaded. So this is still good, right? If you're just like, I'm going to hold this, go ahead, just hold that. You can even hold halfway, whatever you want. But the reason this one's a little harder is the weight, it's top heavy. So it's kind of awkward.
Yeah.
As opposed to typically if you carry a kettlebell, you're carrying black on black here.
Yeah.
You're carrying it mass down, which is fine.
Right.
But I can do this way longer than I can do that.
Yeah. Okay. I got you.
So it's subtle. It's just one of those, if it feels wildly inappropriate, then it's totally okay to hold the dumbbell, hold the kettlebell down with the normal direction. And you can still do both sides because, both shoulders
Yeah.
are. Let's go ahead and talk about, I know we just want to talk about overhead pressing, but we're actually not going to overpress today, ironically. We have 10 minutes to play. Sounds way more fun than it actually is. Goblet squats. I think we all know that by now, but you're going to carry the weight in front of your chest. So whether it is your dumbbell, okay. And if it's a bigger bell, you can go, or a bigger dumbbell, you can hold the head of the dumbbell. Sometimes when you get into that 35, 40, 50 pound weights, the head just gets awkwardly big for tiny hands. So I will hold just one, right? If you don't have a 50-pound dumbbell, don't worry about it. It's not an issue. Otherwise, we'll have our kettlebell or your weight of choice. And then we're going to go ahead and carry this near our chest. Okay. And then just kind of squat down, breathing in, trying to get your hips below parallel or sit to something, and then exhale, stand. If you can't get that low, keep your toes and your heels down, your belly braced. Let's do 5 practice reps with the weight we're going to use. Just like before, if you have 2 lighter weights, but you don't want to, 2 dumbbells, you can't really combine them. It's kind of hard. It's okay to make these front squats, right? Do the same thing. Just carry a weight in each hand if that feels like that's a better option for you. It's still going to be an upright body position. And the way you carry the bell is however you like to, frankly. I like to carry the body of the bell in some capacities. I don't have to carry the handle. You carry it like a lollipop, it gets a little bit grippy. But some people like this. So you're going to find your own options.
It's so cold.
Yeah, I know. I just thought the same thing as I was demonstrating. I was fine until I picked that up and I was like, it's cold. I will say, Maxine, speaks for you. If you want to do some overhead pressing, maybe that might be a nice alternative to the shoulder tap. However,
Yes. Okay.
right, and we'll just do 10. You can, if you have 2 weights, we can do 10 each, or you can do 1 at a time.
Okay.
You say 5 to 10 reps per arm. You can, I'll let you decide. Otherwise, as written, we have 10 shoulder taps. So a shoulder tap, we're in a plank shape. Okay. I go opposite shoulder. So my left hand goes to my right shoulder with the least amount of movement in the lower half of my body as possible. All right. I don't need speed, just a steady pace. So looking for control, followed by 10 sideline clamshells. So sideline means I'm sideline. I feel like a pinup doll a little bit here. My elbow is underneath my shoulder. And then we're going to push down with the bottom knee while doing basically a side plank with my right side. So I'm going to push down. My top knee naturally comes up because it does. My hips are coming towards you when I'm doing this. And they come back as I come back. All right. And we're doing 10 per side. None of this is meant to be quick. We're just meant to move for 10 minutes. Don't worry about how fast you're going. If you need to reduce the reps on anything, just take the reps down. The reps as written are 16 goblet squats, 10 shoulder taps, and 10 per side line clamshells. When you're doing that, you just roll over and face away from the camera. You don't have to circle around like a dog, unless you want to. let's get this started. Again, for quality, we're just moving. We're going to start with the squats first. Risa. So let's come back to standing. We start in 3, 2, 1, and that's okay. If you did a few extra reps, that's not a problem.
Okay, for shoulder press, is it better to go lighter and get full range of motion, or heavier and not as?
It's a great question. I think in this case, if you're doing the full 10 per arm, I would go lighter.
Okay.
To get the range of motion. If you get, 5 minutes in and you're like, nah, I think I could do more, bump it up.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a great question. In this case, I would say start light and you can always opt to go up. Ideally, I think range of motion is usually, I will say, in most settings, range of motion is the bias. But sometimes you do kind of have to challenge the musculature for the shoulder joint with less volume and a little more weight. So that's going to be something that you can, if you write your workouts down, or you can copy and paste this, or I can send it to you if you'd like.
Okay.
In your training peaks or whatever else. It's one of those you can kind of look at what you did last time. So you make notes, like, okay, last time I went for weight. So this time I'm going to go for range of motion.
Range of motion.
Or, kind of pick and choose, depending on what you're doing too, especially if you're going to swim or, you have, another activity that day or the next day. You can think of it that way.
Okay.
So sideline clamshells, you have both shoulders stacked on top of each other, right? So shoulder, shoulder, right? Oh, shoulder, shoulder, elbow. Should be a nice straight line, right? And then your hips are slightly behind. So it's going here. You have a little exercise band. I mean, like, not like little as in little tension, not, you could put it around your knees. The thing is you have to get it off your knees every single time. So it becomes a bit of a pain, frankly. But it's a great way to add a little something to this. We're just moving through. There's a meme out there somewhere in the internet of, I think it's meant, well, at least I think it's a group class coach. I don't know, CrossFit or whatever, but they're in Eskimo suit, like full snow pants, and they're just standing there looking like, and everyone else is in a tank top and shorts. And that's kind of what it feels like most of the time. Usually.
We need to get you one of those.
I mean, I think I would opt for like a survival suit, like for water, like you fall into cold water.
Yeah.
The Carhartt snowsuits. Those could be kind of fun. That would be funny though if I was in a Carhartt snowsuit in my living room. Nikki would never let that one go if I ever got one. He'd be like, "Are you kidding?" I was like, "No."
Oh, so funny.
I think we're like at mid 40s right now in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I use heat more here than I've ever done on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's a different kind of cold. Like sometimes I'm freezing here and I'm like, it's 50 degrees. I'm like, seriously? It's
Yeah.
50?
It's 50. This is like balmy spring weather.
Yeah. I
Or
grew up in
oh,
Eastern Washington for the most part, so lots of cold and snow there.
yes.
You know, and there's always a week where it's 30 below,
Oh yeah.
but I don't know. Yeah, it's different here.
Or the mornings are 30 and the afternoon's 50.
Yeah.
It's why? Yeah, when we were on the East Coast for the wedding, I was like, it was I mean, it was beautiful. It was like the deck had like, the it had frost, but it was melting. It was just like the perfect
Oh, so pretty.
New
Yeah.
England fall. And I was like, oh, it's so cozy. And here I'm just like, I don't know what to do. My context changed and I'm like, no, this is just cold. There I was like, this is perfect weather. I love it so much.
Oh,
I did wear my thermal bibs yesterday though, and they were the perfect temperature range because usually I'm like, I wear them for the first 10 minutes and I'm like, I'm
so
dying.
yeah.
Oh no, I'm actually warm. Like I'm the correct warmness for this bike ride. So, but I only need one pair of thermal bibs. Two is just too many. I am, however, getting a long pair of bibs or replacing a pair that are traded for 50 to 75. So it's a little more reasonable in temperature range. I have good news for you. You're 6.5 minutes in. You are over halfway. I like Barney. Just realized this. Barney. Look at this. Barney. Sorry. How are those sideline clamshells working for you guys? We
Good.
all, yeah.
Don't miss the snow. I will say that.
I miss the first snow.
Oh
Like
yeah.
the first like white, fluffy, and this is also when it stayed because it didn't turn to slush.
Yeah.
The temperature didn't rise too high. But do I miss it as a whole? No, not necessarily. Um,
The day, digging your car out.
oh, it's horrific. You spent 20 minutes starting the car, warming up the car, you have to shovel the driveway. We were on a corner lot as well. So I say we, like I did anything. Nikki would shovel the whole, it just, oh, so bad.
Miserable.
We didn't have a snow blower, and at that point, at some point in winter, there's nowhere for the snow to go, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I spent a few years living and working in New York in a little brownstone. So, there was
Yeah.
this much space in front, and we were in the downstairs unit. So
Oh.
there was no shoveling the walk or digging the car out because we didn't have a car
No
then.
color. Yeah.
You just dug through the snow to get out of your doorway.
Just get out of the house and then trudge to the subway.
That sounds slightly less annoying. Slightly. Ah. You have a minute and a half remaining. I mean, I mean, frankly, that sounds charming, Arisa, but I'm sure it wasn't as charming as it sounds. Like Brownstone, New York, although if you don't have a place for your trash bins and you complain about a rat problem, I don't know what to tell you, man. I feel like we can solve this. So, all right, we're approaching our final 30 seconds of this workout. If you feel the need to even it out, complete your per side, that's okay. You can also just stop when the clock hits 10. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Good. Just curious. It's okay if you didn't count, but if you did, do you know how many full rounds you guys completed? Like at least 3.
At least 3,
Okay.
maybe 4. I don't.
It's okay. It's more like I was just kidding. When I write these, I do a very, like, I would say very basic math, and then I'll assume something takes a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And then, okay, if it takes 3 seconds a rep, 5 seconds a rep, and it's like, okay, well, it's 10 minutes. How many reps are you going to get? So, it's sort of obviously you ultimately end up deciding the pace, but I want to make sure that I'm not having you do, if I had you do 5 reps of each thing, you'd be like, I just did 25 rounds, right? Like, I want to make sure the volume of movement
Yeah.
matches the intended intensity or lack of intensity, right? Given that neither of you are high intensity interval people, as in you're not CrossFitters, you're not high rocks, that's not you're using it for training, not for sport, or that isn't your sport. I was like, I want to make sure we keep it somewhere in a range that feels reasonable.
Yeah. No, that was good.
So I'm glad to hear. So if it's sometimes I try and do like a rough math, which is why I was just curious how many
Yeah,
you
I
guys
think
were.
it's at least 3.
I think I agree, at least 3. My friends, we're gonna hop off a little early because I have
Yeah. No worries, Kirstie.
Okay.
to go to work. Sadly, no, I'm happy to work. I just like having a break between this and work. Have a lovely rest of your day. If you want to do some rolling out, little stretches, those arm circles again later today, some cat cows. So basically, they're a warm up, but as a cool down. But maybe do it in your house, Maxine. Don't.
Yeah. I'm going to go inside.
Sounds like a plan. I'll see you guys next week. Good work today.
Hey, have a
Bye.
good day. Bye.